How you doing, Edwards? How you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing well, and you? I think this is the
Fantastic.
first time attending the session.
Yes.
Got you. How'd you find out about this, if you don't mind me asking? Have we met?
Yes. Stephen,
Oh, okay, got you. In the community, the no code architects.
correct. And I
Got
was
you.
in California. I met you in California.
Oh, at the first event.
Yeah, let me you might you see me?
Oh, yeah, I do remember you.
Okay,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
Is
I'm at
there
work, so that's why I
okay, yeah, no pressure on the camera. Like that. Yeah, yes. It's your first time just to give like a little I guess recap of what I'm doing. Basically, I'm just having a 30-day everyday hands-on session with Claude Code using different platforms.
That's
Very
great.
straightforward. So I have a very large network and I have a lot of people in different communities that basically pay for Claude, only use Claude desktop. Obviously, Claude Cowork came out, but before that, you hear all this stuff about Claude Code, want to use it, just for whatever reason don't use it. So it's more of a, hey, if you see something on here that you do use and you like think it's interesting, how would you use Claude Code with that or anything? It's kind of like jump right in. So some days some people have joined, they're in that exact predicament, take the time if they want to set up Claude Code if they don't have it set up, and then kind of just be interactive and be hands-on and ask any questions. Feel free to interrupt or do anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds
But
good.
this is one of the few days where and even if it does, I still do the whole recording, and this will be up on YouTube later if you have to leave or do anything. So don't worry about that.
Okay.
But this is one of the few days where it is a platform that I don't really used or I've rarely used, which is Notion, which is,
Okay.
I do have to say, funny because I use more, or I'm really transitioning more into a platform called Obsidian, which I'm going to have a workshop on Monday, which would be a competitor or an alternative to um, Notion. So it'll be
Oh,
quite interesting today to just, as someone who's never used Notion, just play around with Claude Code to create some things. And then later on, when I have that session with Obsidian, and even right now, kind of like be able to see some things of the differences and stuff like that. Have you
okay.
ever used Notion before or no?
No,
No, okay, for sure. Yeah, and when I'll go, so what I'm gonna do is already first start sharing my screen.
I was thinking about using it for onboarding purposes.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, that's a one that I see a lot as well. So if I go to my Notion account, let's see what I have. That'll give some background. Oh, I don't have yeah, I'm gonna say I don't have a thing saved. Is that not huh? Okay, Notion doesn't like me. That for sure has to be mine. That's the one I would use. Huh? Okay, this is interesting. So this is a very old client that the first time I ever really had to use Notion that is still trying to take me to, which I don't want to see. And this is like an advanced person who still uses Notion that has some crazy stuff in here. And yeah, I don't even have my workspace here because this is not the email. It's my other one. So why would it not be letting me log in? That's just so interesting. because I do have stuff in there that I would go off of, or we can go off on examples. Because I was thinking about onboarding our idea or proposal idea with some voice AI stuff that I've done before. But
Okay.
if it won't let me log in to see that or go off that, I'm gonna be kind of upset. So you know what? This is I see what's going on because different people have invited me to their Notion. Oh no. Okay, let's see something. This is bad and interesting at the same time. And I deleted Notion off of literally I just recently deleted it because I don't need to go in there, but I'm just curious. 'Cause there's no way I would have deleted my the stuff that I did have saved in there. That's sad. I'll be upset. We can come back to that. Because this is definitely not gonna have the stuff that I had before, and I don't like that. Oh yeah, no, we gotta figure that one out. Oh wait, yeah, right here. What the heck? Why didn't it? Okay, this is my actual Notion. So the I have a couple clients that use it, and I would just log in to like check tasks or comment on stuff like basic stuff.
Right.
So I had to have an account, of course. But when I really did kind of start looking at Notion as an example, so way back when AI first came out and OpenAI first came out with GPTs, custom GPTs, they were really popular. And there was this guy who has this platform named AI Advantage. And basically what he was doing is he had like these GPT uh, templates right here. This was like a lead magnet he was using. He had like 1,000 of them plus. And this is kind of something I reverse engineer to make like over 3,000 of my own custom GPTs and do things. But what I liked about this is these are probably gone or they're not loading or the picture's not here. But it would basically be like, what do you need to make a GPT? A description, instructions, custom instructions, matching prompts, all these type of things that you would use. And obviously they're like in different categories. You could like change how you would want to look at that. And if you wanted to edit it, he had like a prompt library here, so you can open this. It had like list of prompts. It was just very cool. Organized and stuff like that. And he's using it as a lead magnet. Thought it was just cool. You can, if you know more about it, you can set it up. Um, and these are like just other things that I've copied or, that I, for whatever reason, resource content or whatever that other people are using Notion, and you can like copy it into your Notion and stuff like that. And then this is another one that has a list of just like a whole grip of AI tools and stuff like that. Now, I won't, if of course you're in Steven's video community, like you can use platforms like Airtable to do this and other platforms. I can't really speak to what would be the differences and specifics and stuff. I do know one thing about Notion is like they're very known in common that if you're familiar with like um RAG systems, people store a lot of stuff in knowledge and then attach it to large language models to kind of use it as a RAG. I've seen many platforms that allow you to connect Notion as like a knowledge base, basically, and other things like that, which is cool. So I guess my question to you, Edwards, would be: Do you have Claude? Do you pay for Claude? Do you use Claude
Yes.
Code?
Yes.
Do you use Claude Code?
Yes.
So you're familiar with
Mhm.
using it in a terminal or IDE or in whatever fashion and
Correct.
stuff like that. Got you. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, for the sake of, so I personally use Windsurf. There's no specific reason. As you can see down here, I have different IDEs, but for these 30 days of Claude Code, I'm specifically just using Windsurf to do things and stuff like that. So I'm gonna open up Windsurf, gonna open up a new folder. This is literally gonna be a day of how I would brainstorm and use Notion with it. So I'm gonna actually make a new folder, Notion. Right here. Open this, close this out. trust. Close this chat. Close this. Open my terminal. I don't use the extension.
Oh, you don't use this
I don't
extension?
use the extension.
Oh
If you have any
wow.
questions, why or anything like that, feel free to ask. Now, I did in the other uh, previous days, or for people who might not want to use the terminal, did go through how to set up the extension and use the extension and stuff like that. I don't. I used to, but to be honest, I don't see any difference. I don't know of any benefit besides the whole visual thing. And to be honest, for me, it's the exact same thing. So and I haven't used it in a while, so if you see any difference or things that you don't see or anything like that, feel free to like comment or let me know. And sometimes what I do, I'll just drag my terminal up here, but this will start that. Um, I've and so if you see my Claude code not look the same as you, and you have any questions why it looks like that or what it's doing, feel free to ask me. I Sadly, I don't have my other laptop that has Cloud Code that just has basic settings because I have a lot of things configured and I'm kind of too lazy to take it all off and I have like 3 days of doing it. So if you see some advanced stuff for things going on, just ask me. But I am gonna have like a page or a document that
Mhm.
like has instructions to like what's changed, why it's doing that, and if you want to like implement the same thing. There's a gentleman the other day from the community as well. He said he just took a screenshot of this and gave it to Claude Code, and then it just edited the settings and did the same thing for him.
Okay.
So like for example, whenever I start my Claude Code, it's automatically on plan mode. I don't have to start it off on there for the first conversation. And if my plan mode goes on for a little bit longer than usual, it's attributed to some of these extra settings that I probably have in the background and stuff like that. So
Okay.
um, I'm also using, do you know about WhisperFlow?
Yes.
Okay, got you. So I'll be using WhisperFlow to talk and not type as much and things like that. So I'll say, today I'm doing a workshop and I'm interested in using Notion. And actually, before I finish that, what I would actually do before I come in Claude Code is I would actually have part of, I'm not going to do it now, but I would have part of this conversation in Claude Desktop just because of how the memory works through your conversations and projects. So what I'm
Okay.
about to say now to Claude Code wouldn't really kind of remember who I am and stuff like that because I don't have that in my like system prompt or like settings that I'm talking about that I configured, just not for any particular reason. But because I've had so many conversations and done so many projects and stuff like that, what I'm about to say to Claude Code now, this would be like, oh, based on these projects you've done or what you usually do, you could use Notion like this type of thing, if that makes sense. So that's what I would do then. And because my Claude desktop can edit files, be just like Claude Code,
Mhm.
right? If you come here to connectors, which are basically MCPs, and you browse connectors, there, I need to actually come here to extensions, which are the same thing. There's one called file system. Even if, and if you're on, so if I go to browse extension, that's for Windows. And then there's one for Mac right here. I think this is the one control your Mac that will actually edit
Okay.
files, right? So just like we have a folder where we do all of our projects, mine is my code folder, it can edit that and do things. So based
Okay.
on that conversation, I would have at the end, I'll just say like make a file and then make a project in my code folder and then go in there and start Claude Code and then continue on from basically from what I'm about to do right now, just to give like context of how usually I like to do things.
Okay.
So hey, I'm interested in doing a workshop and I'm interested in using Notion, particularly for onboarding or creating some type of workflow for onboarding when building voice assistants or maybe even proposals. Um, how would I go about that? And and I'm kind of being vague here, which is kind of okay, but let me just think a little bit more. Yeah, I guess if I be too much because of the settings I kind of have settings configured in the back end. I kind of knows like to already go, and this is to say not Claude Code wouldn't do this already, but it would say, oh, I lose my train of thought. What was I gonna say? It would already go look for like APIs and SDKs off the bat and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And stuff, if that makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this will of course try to do its thing. What one thing I do notice is of course it will notice that you're obviously there's nothing in this directory. And I don't have settings to just let it know that because it just really doesn't make any sense. So like you see right here, it's already asking, are you looking to build a programmatic Notion integration using the Notion API to auto-generate pages, database workflows, right? So yeah, basically I'm gonna use the Notion API. Um, what is the primary use case? A workflow that guides someone through building a voice assistant, proposal generator, a workflow for creating client proposals for voice assistant projects. So let's do so let's do all three. And that is because I also want to showcase, of course, if you may not be familiar, just like Claude doing multiple things in parallel or agents doing that. And also, normally, what I would show, or I might also do this depending on if I have another idea, is open another terminal, start a Claude session, and kind of go back and forth and do that thing, which I might do, I might not. Yesterday, I had a session which is very simple about building bots, which of course, if you build with Claude Code, sometimes you're just like waiting for a response there, and you're like, what do I do in the meantime? So I definitely always open up another terminal, and whatever idea I'm thinking about, maybe it's a different integration or want to do a research to add something later on because I'm, building on a different branch or something. I would do something like that. So it's asking which voice assistant platforms are relevant. It knows that I used multiple things before, built multiple platforms, LiveKit, Vappy, Retail, Hume, OpenAI real time, which is powered by LiveKit. So it's going to go through, this little plan and stuff. All right, so it's going to start going through that, create two agents, start running through, looking up the API, and then it's checking Vault. So, and this is actually something extra. I knew I wasn't going to avoid this because I use this other platform called Obsidian. And I guess this is good. I don't
Spell
mind.
Obsidian.
Obsidian. I A-N, I believe.
Okay.
It's doing basically like I have this workflow, and people would do this with Notion. It's no different. The only
Okay.
difference, really, at a base level of Notion and Obsidian is Notion is mainly on the cloud.
Hmm.
It's and Obsidian are the actual files on your device, and it's open
Okay.
source, so you don't have to pay
Oh,
for it at all in general. And you can do a lot opposed to Notion, you have a free tier and you're kind of limited in what you may be able to do. Not to say that, paying for it wouldn't be good, but just to go through a baseline difference and to give context to what's going on here as I like show some background stuff. But in Obsidian, how I have a workflow work, and because I save a lot of information and resources, it checks for those resources and information. And kind of to give context, because I'm doing this 30 days of Claude Code, I basically have like a resource on that there in voice AI. So it's also checking Obsidian and just replace that with Notion. It could be doing that with Notion if I was already using Notion as I'm building this project because it's related to making a proposal with voice AI.
okay.
So if you do Control O, which goes into like the background of what's happening, as you saw that little thing with the agents, right? It gets into so if it does, yeah, if it does that, it's just searching for stuff. But this is actually going into like what what's happening, right? So it asked me those questions, right? It said, okay, all three use cases, and then it said, all right, research this, made a prompt. It knows that I primarily look for SDKs, CLIs, and APIs. So first it's going to look for the SDK,
Okay.
right? It's doing that research, doing web searches, right? Then it's looking at the API, right? Here's what it found. Now, obviously, it's not saying this to me yet because this is them doing the research, but you can like press Control O and look at what's happening kind of in the background. right? So it can say like it can create what can it create, what can't it create, right? Looking at the latest API version, what it can do, what it supports, what are the limitations, what's possible, what's not possible, right? And this is for like each section, I guess, of Notion: properties, fields, template functionality, etc., webhooks, looking at use case, onboarding, right? Being more descriptive of what's not possible. Okay. And so now it's asking me a question, still going through design. Right. And as it looks through stuff and exactly those same platforms I named, right? Vappy, Retail, LifeKit, PipeCat, 11 Lab, Hume, OpenAI, right? Plus a 7-day workshop. Okay. It's going to take all of that stuff, right? Because remember kind of what I said earlier, it's kind of not like Claude Desktop or some of the other tools where like it's remembering all of your conversations. And that's not to say it can't, because obviously it's kind of doing that. I'm just doing it in a different way because of some settings that I have with my Claude to say, hey, go look at some other things
Okay.
there. And it also, and to give more context, it also logs these sessions. And this is something I'm was talking about later on. It's something that I'm kind of really exploring with. So like when you in Claude Code, when you go into a new project and you start Claude Code, like normally that's how it's used. Um, or even whenever you start Claude Code, it saves these chat sessions, right? So
Right.
like, as an example, if I come here and then I start up, please not let me type. If I type in Claude, and if I was having if I ended that current conversation or if I had another conversation, I can come here, do slash resume, and then go into that conversation,
Okay.
right? Those have sessions, timestamps, and other things. I have a process here that basically logs those. So when I'm doing, and I'll have to check this later, basically because I want to, there's many different reasons, but the main one is I want to measure the productivity of using large language models in AI development, right? So in this project that I'm doing right now, because I'm giving it different tasks, it should be go logging those tasks. Now replace Obsidian with just Notion for this case, even though I'm going to be, it's kind of inevitable that I'm not going to be bringing it up, but they're both interchangeable, right?
Correct.
I could be saying, hey, this was the project I did on this date, save this. This was not the entire chat history, but this was the chat history. This was the task. This how long it took to take the task, and this was actually completed, and that's that kind of thing. All right, so now it's looking at the Notion SDK or trying to find that TypeScript. Once again, that's something I had in my settings that I say that I normally use. Any questions so far about the rambling that I've done?
No, but which what's your best voice model or Vappy or retail?
I don't use retail, and it's not any for any particular reason. I'm more just of an API person, and that's kind of what Bappy leans towards
Okay.
to give a simple answer. I like the flexibility. Retail would the number one reason it would throw me off is because they exclusively only use 11 lab voices.
Okay.
If I didn't want to use 11 labs, or I am in scenarios where I have clients that want to use their own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they want to deploy it. Maybe everything's custom, or maybe they want to use Cartesia. Maybe they want to use OpenAI real time, whatever. Especially if they like are already doing it or familiar, retail would already be
Okay.
out of the question. Yeah. So I mainly go Vappy, Cloud, and then LiveKit, like open source, bigger stuff for control, which I'd be able to run any of those models just like Vappy. It's just the infrastructure is different in terms of it being open source. They have a cloud version as well, but yeah. So I'm pretty interested
I
in,
never used LiveKit. I
yeah.
did something in Vappy and retail.
Yeah, LiveKit is what powers OpenAI, and it powers 911 as well.
Really?
Yeah, it's an open source thing. Like I said, even though they have a cloud one, so it's it's used by a lot of things. But I believe, if I'm correct, I believe Twitch uses um, like the technology Live Kit is on because it's not just like it's voice. You can it's like chat rooms and even like AI agents can join chat rooms and like see a webcam and like do a lot of stuff. It's been around for a long time, a good amount of time.
Okay, that's good to know.
hmm So like I said, and I don't think this is because of my fully because of my settings, but if some people wonder, like, man, his plan mode takes a long time. Because usually what happens is like my plan mode would literally go for what's the time it's saying it's going for now. It's at least, I guess, been like somewhere around 15 minutes. And then it just goes through. Now, what I am starting to do because of the settings and just probably familiarity of working with Claude Code is my plan mode. Probably like my first two are plan mode are very thorough, and then I just let it build everything out without going in plan mode unless it is either unless I'm starting a new conversation um or it's like I said, I'm thinking of a new idea that's not even related to something like this. So maybe I'd be like, yeah, an example of that would be like, okay, after this is done, I want to build it out to maybe connect to N8N to notify me or get turned into a PDF to get dropped in somewhere else or something like that. And I would start brainstorming that idea in an entirely different chat. So it's supposed to be writing up the final plan now. And actually, while it's doing that, what I do need to find out where this is because I don't remember is where do I go get my API key? That's the question. Okay, I see what my workspace ID is. I'm pretty sure I will need that later. Is this at integrations? Yeah, so I've done this before. I don't even, when did I connect this to Claude Desktop? I don't even remember that. Uh, this has to be right here. Okay, I'll figure that out in a minute. Maybe extra settings are right here. No, it's the same thing. Okay. This is still making a plan. Oh, no. Now we create a Notion integration. Well, first off, let's read this entire plan. Right, so I run voice AI workshops across many platforms. This project creates a TypeScript CLI school. Okay, we got workshop hub, voice assistant onboarding, and a proposal generator. Okay, you got relationship maps. I'm not sure what that means, but I'm familiar. Basically, just probably like a link record or something like that. So it's going to make this project structure, explaining what these pages do. I'm using an SDK. Um, and just to explain like what an SDK is, just in case people hear that. Software development kit, it literally just means it's a coding language, in this case TypeScript, wrapped around the API, which basically I'm not problems is the wrong word to use here, but it has different um, beneficial properties than if you were just to use like an automation platform or just use the API regularly. A very solid example is, let's say, for example, there was an API that didn't have a webhook, right? So you used it in Make or N8N or whatever, and they didn't have a webhook, so you weren't able to do certain things. Whereas the SDK be, for usually because they're kind of more advanced and they're meant to kind of serve these purposes, it would have solved it would even have a webhook, but it would solve the problem of having to poll constantly without using a webhook. So normally, whenever you're basically wanting to integrate a platform, instead of just using the API or saying I want to use the API, say, does this API have an SDK? And then it would ask you what language. Usually it's going to use TypeScript or Python. Um, and then you go for there just to be specific. And I'm probably going to be saying that word a couple times. So I want to give context to that. So it's going to give all this, and then yeah, we're just going to, oh, you know what? Usually what I say, you can also have agents run this in parallel to build this out as well.
Okay.
Plus, you can also just always type, and it's not like it's going to stop. Just say, okay, let me think about that, and right, add that up to the queue, and then say, okay, let's do that like that. Okay, now we're going to put this in phases, and then you'll see kind of like these phases. Right, and I'll do like the wording in this. I'll do it where possible. Okay, right, and then what's cool is like if you haven't used the agents feature that people keep talking about. Um, which I'll show like the differences because it did it earlier, but it doesn't look the exact same. Kind of have like this blocked by number one, blocked by number two, meaning that it can't even work on that until this is done and task will wait
Okay.
and stuff like that. Just to give like context, because what more than likely will happen is, especially when you do agents, it gets like a little laggy. So like how this is kind of like moving, or you see this stuff going up, like that, it'll kind of like stop. You're like, what's going on? But the agents will be literally working on stuff. And you can kind of just tell by looking at this here because these will start being created. But sometimes you might have certain things closed like that and you will have no idea. So yeah, that's just gonna start building that out and doing that stuff. And what I would do if I really was doing something in my spare time, I'd probably just be like looking up research or other examples, maybe in this specific case, YouTube videos, or if I hadn't already, of how other people are using Notion. Like if I really, in the case of right now, never using Notion before. I've been in it before. I know kind of a very small good idea post to like, I've never touched this platform before type thing, and that's why I said I would have been in here, having a conversation saying, hey, I want to use Notion, right? It would be like, oh, you kind of do these things, that things, and this is once again no different. Like if I come to settings, and because I think sometimes when watching videos like this or attending things like this, seeing people do things that might be considered advanced, the whole point is if this can be anything, um, right? Of course, there are people who only use Notion, but like these are interchangeable. So same thing here, and I'm speaking in terms of this remembering what I do in whatever capacity that is, because of the chat memory, because I have specific projects where I talk about content or do all those things. I could come here to connections and then just look for Notion and then connect my Notion here, right? Kind of literally, once again, this is using the API or CLI and bring in that information to brainstorm because I want to build a bigger project or, do something automated. Kind of like how we're doing here. Or even me open up a project, how this looked at Obsidian, I could have said, hey, look at, open up my folder here. Hey, open up, go look at my code folder where I have a plethora of projects. And what could I do with Notion with these things? And then we would have a conversation, just kind of fast forwarding um, that stuff. All right, so still building this project out. See this stuff right here. We'll just like, I'm leaving this open just so we could watch this stuff kind of like grow. And then of course we have the CLAUDE.md file here, which has like the instructions for it to work, which is cool. Already has like the commands that it needs and all that stuff. Huh? Okay. Yep. Very basic. Then what will I need here? My Notion token and my root page ID. Create a page with no, okay, so this is actually what I need to be doing here while this is doing all that. And I can ask it while it's doing this, but let's just scroll back down. Oh, what I will say is create me a .env.local file as well. I see we have kind of are you gonna fix yourself like you usually do? Yeah, it's just don't mind that doubleness. So I wanted to do that. And then what I really need to be doing is building this. Notion integration. So pretty sure this is like connections, and then it said like developer manage integrations. Man, this is bring back memory. Okay, I don't. Let's just create a new one. I don't remember what that one is. Let's name it Claude Code Challenge Internal. I'm gonna assume that's this first one. I hope. I don't know why it made me create two. Okay, that was easy. Create that. So we have our secret. I do want it to read this, so let's save it. Is that all that's right here? Can't be. Access, no page access. Are these different settings that we have to private? So what if I said, okay, I kind of get that. That makes sense. I might do that in a minute. So no webhooks, but this doesn't, let's duplicate that. Let's go back to Notion, switch this over, and then let's make a new page, right? No, I don't want to do that though. I just want it to be, okay. Let me not do what I don't suggest other people to do. I didn't want it to do all that. Can I not make this smaller? Let's see. Da-da-da-da. But how just do I make? I know it's not that hard to make a new page. Why can't this, yeah, add a page? Oh yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Why was it under the whatchamacallit one? So I'm pretty sure I could right click, rename this to Claude Code ooh, terrible grammar. Challenge. Come back here. Let's just refresh this. Let's come back to access, page, private, Claude Code challenge. Yes. There we go. So in this page, I'm assuming this. Okay, still don't need me. I'm assuming this is this. And of course, I'm going to refresh my token. I always highly advise that you have, it will usually make a .env example for you. And usually you can just change this to .env.local, but always just, it's, I might, let's say, for example, share this to GitHub. So that's why that .env example here is, that's just like a very common thing. But I always tell it to make a .env local, so you don't paste your key inside of here. You just paste it inside of there, and then when it needs to use it, it will use it. So we coming back to, I'm assuming that I, I can copy it like that. No, oh, okay. Anyway, I'm gonna regenerate and change that anyway. So let's come down. And if that's wrong, it will tell me. Let's still wait on this. This is still just the foundation being built, which is a workspace. I always try to like read these things and see what that commands, schemas. Okay. And now just you're at the waiting game a little bit. Actually, I am just kind of I gotta leave that page open. I am just kind of curious. So this just brings up a search. Um Connect Notion calendar. Let's do some of these things actually. What can I do for free here? Let's connect my Google. Then we have databases, which I don't have. Pretty sure if I refresh this, that will pop up. No, I thought I did. Maybe this is for con. It doesn't do both of those all inside of one. I guess which makes sense for big companies. Yeah, these are contacts. Oh, Notion calendar is just a different thing from when it's connected. Okay, I guess I have default dummy databases. So I know, no, this is like a whole separate app thing and some other things, but pretty sure this might just be able to be tied into some workflows and things like that. Okay, now this is updated. You can see this. And what is, let's just say this was it. And if I click on this, it just opens like that. Oh, okay. I guess not too different from Airtable. Reading, this, this example of reading and doing stuff like that. Actually, let's, when we went to search, no, I mean, when we went to home, let me just make sure this is not, yeah, it's gonna be a funny thing. We're not, well, what was I looking for? Thought that would be like a search thing. I wanted to see, actually, um, so let's, what would be more aligned, with you? You said proposals, right?
Yeah, onboarding.
Oh yeah, you said
Um,
onboarding. I'm sorry.
yeah, I was
Blah, blah, blah,
thinking
blah.
about use for onboarding.
Mm, what would be from what you see here? Which one would be more aligned? And I can just go slowly down.
Onboard manager.
But right here. Okay. So of course, they'd allow us to use to see this, do all that. Okay, so I'm gonna apply that to mine. I can. How does this work? Get template. Just automatically downloads inside of here. Uh, yeah, no. Okay, templates being there. All right, that's good. Online databases created. So also what I have this do in my instructions are when it basically has to do anything with like obviously with like automating stuff, creating workflows. I'm not sure if it's doing it right now. It looks like it does. It'll take like whatever it has, and usually before like it fully builds it out, it'll actually do test API calls. Or what it'll do, like it'll grab all that information, make regular API calls, so a curl request, a HTTP request, like we would do in an automation platform, and then it takes that and says, "Oh, this is the sequence I need to do it in," and then does the SDK version, like I said. Or even if there was no SDK, it would just then say, "Okay, this is the API, the way that I need to do it," instead of kind of trying to guess more on like what that is specifically. Does a good job with that stuff already, but it just likes to kind of like overcomplicate it and do stuff like that. That's kind of a big foundation. We got scripts now. And I'm assuming it's making all of these because then it's gonna run. Oh, it did it already. It's already right here. And that's
Okay.
funny. Right? I didn't edit any of this. I just said Claude Code Challenge. And then it started making all of this stuff. So what I will say is Where's that template I just copied though? Sales manager, is that what that is? No, that's the thing. Where's the one that I just onboarding manager? Okay,
Onboard
it's right
manager.
here. Okay, now it just popped up right there. Okay, I just wanted to see where it was at. So what I would do in that case, you can do it right here, but since this is doing all of that there, this one I would come here and then I'd do right. I'm not gonna go in plan mode for this because obviously you see how that's going over there. Mm, I want you to take a look at what I'm doing with Notion, and I have a template called M- Manager Onboarding, and I kind of want to apply that to what I'm doing with Voice AI. If you don't see anything, let's brainstorm on some ideas and see what I can do. So I'm assuming because it has the token, well, I could be wrong. Maybe it can't see. Um, oh, this will be interesting to talk about this too. So I know this is not going to work because right, it's not um, connected, which makes sense. So I'll actually stop that and go into that. There's something very helpful and MCP that's called Claude in Chrome. Oh, it is. I think this is still just having problems. So you actually in your browser, there's a Claude extension that you download to do this. And basically, this just opens up the browser and actually does things for you, which is super cool, super helpful. But I think it's having some problems. Try try to use Claude in Chrome one more time. Let's just see. Maybe it's been fixed or update. I doubt it though. And you would know because this would kind of like do a notification. It'd pop up here. It'd probably start controlling some stuff. But yeah, I think it just messed up. Yeah, so it's fine. And then also this stuff that you see here kind of goes to what I was talking about with like those settings in the background. So because this basically is like a uncompleted task in the request I made, it will like stop other things from happening, or I'll kind of like see this message. So you'll see like prompt hook condition was not met, browser extension connection issue occurred, unable to access Notion workspace or review manager onboarding template or voice AI project, right? And then like, yeah, you could obviously do what you want with that, but there are things that you can have happen automatically and also kind of like checks, kind of like what I was saying earlier with the API thing that are happening right here. That's fine. I just wanted to test it. I was familiar with this having problems already. You can check the directory, which is folder. And what I would also say is you won't see the onboarding manager template there. If there's any way that I could share that with you somehow, I'm not sure through the Notion API in general, just let me know. Okay, either WhisperFlow is being slow. Yeah, so let's put that in there and maybe I can brainstorm it now. Because there's no way you can't like download these or I'm pretty sure it was trying to like look at the page. I wonder if that's if I did this. Well, access means any general access. Anyone can view. I would assume that Notion pages are being able to be viewed, but instead of assuming, we just test. So let's say I have a full picture. You're right, the managing onboarded simply lives in your Notion workspace, not in this code base. Here's a few ways you can share with me. I just need to, oh, okay, sweet. I figured it was going to do that. So I'm pretty sure, once again, the page IDs are this here. Take that, come grab it, just paste it. Oh, yeah, I'm like in a whole nother conversation. Okay, this is compacting, and we're on three more phases left. The first two are done. Let's just put in some workshop stuff in there. Once again, benefit of some things that you do here will be long running tasks. What else can you do on the side, depending on what it is? So yeah, this is now running commands to see what that looks like. It looks like we got nothing back. Now, and also to give context to your case with going along with this, and I don't want to conflate things. Have you, and I guess let me ask this, have you ever been in a situation where like you use two platforms that might do the same thing, but you mainly, you might do whatever it is in this platform, but you push it to this other platform to do this specific thing because the previous one does not do it?
Yes.
Got you. So in the case, and I'm saying that because I'm referencing Obsidian, and for anybody else who may be thinking about this or watching it later, Obsidian isn't, they have a cloud version. I don't think you would use the cloud version of how we're playing around with Notion in this example, if that makes sense. What you probably would do is take information, content, or files, have it in Obsidian, and then make a workflow like this where it pushes to Notion to do all those things.
Okay, that makes sense.
hmm they do have something called a Obsidian Sync, which like pushes stuff to the cloud, but I don't. It's from my understanding and all the research I've done. I've known about Obsidian for at least like 4 years, but I've really started using it myself basically the last like 3 months. But I haven't seen any scenario where someone may be using it in any type of the capacity like Notion to do stuff. It's really more always personal, to be honest. So it says, okay, let's try a different approach. It says the page exists, but your Notion integrate. Oh, okay. So and that's learning something new. That's cool. So you going back to our integration here, which I didn't, I completely left that page. Okay. So let's scroll down settings, connections, uh, edit, onboarding manager. So my assumption would be once we put in an API, it could have access to anything, but they do it by integration base and whatever it has access to like that. So good to know. You can try again. And let's check on this. All right, so we're on phase 4. All right, so let it try that again. Waiting game back and forth. All 9 data verified. All right, so that's technically done. We'll check on that in a minute. It's going to give us verify. I noticed the budget displayed K5, 5. Okay, yeah, let's read that really quick. Everything is working end to end, setup, seed information, workshop create, fix and tested, tested, fix and tested. The N8N Integration webhook for attendee enrollment proposal statuses. Okay, so we'll come back to that. We won't do any of that. I want to wait till this is done and then do all that at one time. I'm just going because I just like to see what it's always saying in between and kind of those are ways to how could I say it? Like you'll come up with like things that you'll see that'll basically go into your settings of Claude Code to do kind of like what I'm talking about when I reference that sometimes with some of these things that are popular. So yeah, now I found it. Then it's all testing and debugging. So can you explain to me how this works? We can handle the N8N process at the end. This database uses Notion newer database sources API. Okay. Let me use the approach of the rest of the project uses. So I have this explain this to us a little bit more detail. All that stuff is built. I just wanted to have that open to show the progress and stuff like that. Right, so we have a CLI tool, which talks to the Notion API to build and manage 3 systems, all from the command line. So no need to go in Notion. And basically, in layman terms, setting up templates that we can use to do automated processes and stuff. So, of course, these are mine, but in this conversation here, I'm going to have this apply to that. But just going through how these databases are connected, workshops, sessions, attendees, resources, clients. Relationships are dual directed. If a session is linked to a workshop, the workshop also shows its sessions. The key is the technical detail. Notion recently split databases into 2 concepts: database, the container, data source, the actual schema, and the data inside, which is interesting for me to know because I'm always looking at database concepts and I've never used Notion before. So what happens when we onboard a client? Oh, that's just speaking in terms of workshops. Rate limiting. Okay, so now let's see this. Okay, this says this is done. So here's what your template looks like. Right now, it's tracking coaching clients, your existing voice URL. Option 1, adapt the manager template specifically for voice AI clients instead of coaching clients. Of course, I'll do that, but of course, you can change it to adapt it to whatever you want. Option 2, track people going through that. Actually, you know what? I want to create an onboarding going through kind of like a sales process, maybe. Like if someone was selling the voice AI solution, maybe that's a good way to do that. This would be something only you would have access to, or like team wise.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just me.
Gotcha. All right, so now that's going to go through a little plan mode. Hopefully that doesn't take too long, but since this said this was done really quick, let's come back here. Ooh, that was a lot. Let's go back real quick. I feel like mm, might be a little duplication here. We can clean that up in a minute. There's nothing in here, which is fine. But what we can do while that one is working on that, this is done. Let's clear this. Can we populate some fake data inside of all everything inside of Notion? And you can use individual agents to do this in parallel as well. Not even going to put a plan mode for this, just going to let it work, just to kind of see some stuff visually there and it not be like. And then, just to be a little bit more advanced, and of course, a lot of people ask, you can right click this and rename these if you have multiple chats so you don't get distracted on. what it is that you're trying to do in this different session. How could I tie in this Notion project with N8N and have automations and other things like that? All right, so now we got three things going on. Uh, let me see something real quick. Is that? Oh, this is just adding one here as a quick action. Okay, that's that looks like. I'm like, what is that? That's a filtering then? Mm, okay. I want to actually that open a new tab. This actually took me to that. It's fine. I wanted to actually see like one with pictures and photo. I can make this bigger like this, right? And then this is a new field. There we go. Files and media. Okay. So at that plan, uh, yeah, of course, it's to go search and do some stuff. I do have a setting where it's supposed to give me notifications whenever I'm not in a terminal, so you don't have to constantly switch back and forth. But I guess for some reason that's not working when I'm inside of one search for some specific reason. All right, so now it's designing a plan for the onboarding. First, that's only one. And matter of fact, let's just kind of look into that like I was saying last time. Instruction. This onboards a new salesperson selling voice AI solutions. Think of it as a day one in voice AI. I see. It's funny what it did here. I think instead of actually like selling something, but it's fine. Of course, it can be adapted. So, da, da, da. Asking what to ask. See what's happening here. All right, so it already launched. One thing that I don't like. So I don't know if you're on Windows or Mac. Windows, unfortunately, we don't have some of like the super advanced settings. One of them that I can't figure out. So that feature that I talked about, the multiple agents in parallel. This is it actually happening right here. So every other time it said agents launched, usually that just means that one agent is doing multiple things, but these are actually two individual agents running independently of each other. And just like how I'm clicking the Control O to look at what that specific agent or Claude Code was doing, you can do that here and actually message these agents individually. It's just for Windows, it does not work for us, no matter how hard I try to do it. I can never do it. And then it said these are okay. Is that talking about? Oh yeah, it's talking about right here. It's not talking about anything. I just want to make sure this is not linked or it's not doing anything in here. I think it's doing it in here just because it knows it's the onboarding thing. Okay. Or did it do both? Because that's actually here. No. Oh yeah, I'm thinking that it's deduplicated. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'll tell it to fix those deduplications. And actually, this is the product of knowing this. Can you actually go through what I have? I see a lot of duplicates inside of here, and that needs to be cleaned up. I see multiple clients, workshops, and proposals. I finish. Add our existing workspace. Only support creating everything from scratch. Yeah, let's just do this. Oh, yeah. See, and now this is looking up, asking to read my Obsidian, even though I don't think I have anything inside of there unless it's putting it there by itself. So I'm just going back for front of some commands. That was actually a plan that we approved, I believe. Right, this 6 phases. Okay, we have sales onboarding two, rep tracker, checklist items. Okay, that's just what it's naming. I guess that's inside of that. So it says what gets built, a sales onboarding entry for the rep name, stage, manager, dates, progress, 48 checklist tags across 6 phases linked to the rep, a rich welcome page with phase overviews, platform, quick preference table, and estimate timeline. So that's going to do that. And this is probably not doing that now, but once again, uh, you can also use agents to build this in parallel as well. Always just throw that on there. It's like a sprinkle and have it. This should do that. So this is still searching, right? This is just the N8N stuff that's going on. There's actually just for the sake of it, let's just name it N8N. Let's just name it structure. And here what we're doing is dummy data. All right, so let's look and see where those duplicates are. Did I tell? Yeah, I told this one too. What did it say when I said that? Okay, yeah, it'll have, and it usually always does that. Builds the foundational parts and then launches the ages after. All right, so I wonder if that means is that yeah. I don't think that timeline one was there. And literally the only way to kind of check what those differences are is if
Where do you get more of your most of your clients from?
um I like communities, I have a large network of just knowing people and kind of being known in places like that.
Okay.
Discord communities, school communities, um, almost every platform if they have a community attending workshops or like um yesterday I was at the N8N workshop for like 4 hours and met people who want to hire me there and different type of things like that. So all of a sudden, that's not something I can find in the history. It's crazy. Um, that was onboarding Notion template, onboarding manager, view this template. What's that? Okay, no, there was a timeline there. I just want to make sure I know what is new that it's going to be. Those differences. So okay, it's doing that. This is doing its audit to see what's that. This is still what this one's doing. Let's see. Control O. All right, let's see. They're doing a lot of reading. Okay, just a lot of reading, just looking at the structure, really understanding what it is. Got all the databases and schemas. Looking at examples. All right, key flows for N8N. Set up seed, create workshop. Flow C, okay, different, it is made different flows. Right, limiting. But man, I'm not gonna lie, this is so cool to see this happen in the background. Looking at users' fault. Once again, it could be anything that you want. It could be even a Google Drive document for just anything related to N8N documentation patterns or anything like that. And then look at this. What N8N patterns they already have. Da, da,
You
da.
can create a
Okay.
skill, a NAN skill, correct?
So I have actually, so this is being a little bit more advanced. I'm glad you actually brought that up. So I have um obviously once again, we have a folder where we have our projects. I have a N8N folder.
Okay.
Now this is where and the reason why that's a good question because it goes into just how you want things to be configured. Usually, right? So let me open up another thing here. Let me just make sure there's nothing to press yes to. Yeah. Come on. I know we're doing a lot. Now, so let's open up another cloud here. I love MCPs. Nothing's wrong with MCPs, no matter how much people try to complain with them, right? The only problem is that it takes up context, which is just how it works. I would even call it a problem, right? So if you do slash context, you can actually see, right, all of the context of this, right? It tells you how much your system prompt is, your system tools. Now, I used to have 10 MCPs. Normally always load up when I start my Claude Code, right? You can have it what's called a user level settings that every time you start Claude Code, there are things always attached, no matter what project you're in, which isn't a bad thing. And what I'm about to say, there's no reason why I didn't do it. I'm just playing around with different Claude Code settings at the time of doing all of these challenges and stuff. So I would have one like ShadCN, Supabase, Todoist, Airtable, just things that I normally naturally use that there are a lot of different reasons or edge cases why I would like just put that in there for data or do something like that, depending on what I'm working on, or maybe it's for a client or something like that, right? If I had all of those MCPs added, let's just say, this much context would be taken up just from having the MCPs, which goes into the next things of which why you have skills, which um, um, take up way less context than an MCP. But what I do with certain things like that is in that specific project where I'm working to do automations in N8N specifically, that project has agents that have N8N skills and the N8N MCP to work on, right? So in this case, what I would do here and what I probably am going to do when I get done looking through this, I'm going to say, hey, go in my code folder, right? Or it's gonna, or I'm, go in my code folder, put like a markdown file, and I'm gonna open up another terminal with that, and then have the agents build out that automation to connect in this, and then go back and forth between the terminals.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because because for me personally, you know, one, you know. I'm not going to have the N8N MCP being used all the time, opposed to, let's say, uh, I have an MCP that connects to, any VPS with SSH. That's something I would have at the user level that is on every project because, you know, even it works for me in either case. I want to self-host something and put it up on a VPS, or if I have a client, which is going to give me the information to their VPS anyway. So then I'm just going to put it in the MCP and rotate credentials and then go build something. So we'll have that, do that still. All right, this is almost done with everything verifying. So that was, let's come back here. I know I did a lot of stuff. Thought this would have been deleted so far, but I guess not, which is okay. So really quick, if I go to, nope, that's not what I was looking for, but I'm glad there's information there. I was looking for, there we go. But it's not that one. Oh, keep forgetting. It's this one. No. Yeah. So onboarding. And obviously I'm like, there's probably different views how you can look at this, right? But this is how this is looking right now. So you can do completed. I'm not sure if there'll be different phases for this, which I'm sure maybe that's what the categories are for. I'm not sure. I see. Here we go. Create, makes sense. Maybe this should be from top to bottom, or there's a different way that you would put this, but it makes sense. Create VAPI account, generate API keys, store it, configure transcriber, LMLs, create a blank assistant. And it's funny. This is literally following my exact kind of like once again information from my vault or other things of how I actually would have somebody create a voice assistant, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And even from my onboarding process, this would make sense for me. It's mainly if I was had somebody that worked for me and I was passing this off. Of course, for us, it makes sense just to remember two, or you might be going through like specific phases with that client. But yeah, I just want to. I don't want to like make something and then not go through it and try to like make sense of it or something like that. And what does it say? Property tool narrator. That's interesting. I don't know what that was. Maybe that's like doing something advanced and trying to link to other examples of some voice AI stuff. I'll probably have to look at that later. But let's just come back here really quick and I want to make sure. Yeah, I think that's just what it turned into was the onboarding checklist. I didn't see the sales cycle though, but maybe that's not done. So I'll just still let that finish. Okay, so I duplicates. Wait, what is it talking about? Sessions. Okay, workshops. Checklist 22. Delete all records from every database, then rerun the fake. Okay, I don't know why this wouldn't do option three. And I can, delete everything and start over, but I'd rather just delete what's already there. Onboard a new voice AI sales rep with learning checklists. Okay, just see a lot of stuff. I don't know why this is taking a very long time. Let's see if it actually puts something new so I can. So I don't think it did. And normally what I would do in cases like this when I can see it kind of resetting. So funny, whenever I start pointing that out or something like this, it actually starts resetting the token and it starts like doing something. But usually I would just stop it and say like, literally like, you good? You okay? What are you doing? And obviously it's gonna give the response like, oh yeah, yeah, my bad. All right, so it says this, and then I'll say, okay, I see what you're trying to do while you got stuck. And you see how it's like, once again, it's kind of gonna look through my Obsidian and stuff. I see what you're trying to do. I actually have all of my N8N stuff set up in a project called N8N in my code folder that also has an N8N NCP. If there's anything you need to do, as I'm sure you can edit in that terminal, I can pull it up and you can just give me the instructions to give to another agent to do that. All right, so it's cleaning that up. And then hopefully, thought this was real time refresh, maybe not. No, it kind of looks like everything is still right there, but okay. Or maybe that's just, it still hasn't happened yet because it's not finished, so I shouldn't say that yet. Agent finished, just save the world, and I run setup to create the new. Yes, go ahead. That's why I'm not seeing that one onboarding thing that I'm talking about. I think that's sales flow. So two new databases, sales onboarding and sales onboarding task. So let it create those. That's deleting that. This is going to go look in that project that I just talked about. And that was me just explaining that, so I can close that. And I'm hoping what's cool is, and I can open Obsidian because it's not that big of a deal, even though I'll be talking about later. I'll be definitely going to deep dive into this on Monday. But like basically, let's make this bigger. Um, you can save all of this stuff in any different type of way, but there's just multiple information here that's I kind of log and stuff like that. And what's supposed to be happening is I have this thing called task notes, which yeah, I can tell it's not doing it right now, but obviously this has tasks and things like that. And this is used in tangent with Claude Code and stuff like
Yes.
that. You know, once again, because I have a bunch of
Okay. I'm
resources
like,
and other
too
things,
many Marias in this
it's
world.
checking this
Okay.
stuff. Like I've made
Gotcha.
projects where I've
I go
built
by
stuff.
Carmen.
These are actual like projects that may be done locally or pushed live that we can use for like context and all that stuff. And I'm kind of building that. And then basically like you can have notes and all those things connect to each other
Oh,
because they
20
have
years
like
actually.
this knowledge graph, which
Yeah.
things
No, he
link to
started
each
with a whole
other. So like
one.
as an
So I'm
example,
like,
this is a
oh, wow.
project. And then this project has, you know, all these other nodes which are connected to it, which are like
Let's
the
see.
projects that I
You
built
can
that like
figure it
link to
out.
each other and stuff like that.
I don't
Just
want to
to
retire and just
give
not do
more
anything. You know
context
what I'm
and
saying?
stuff
Maybe
like
run
that.
my own business. We'll
Basically,
see.
it's a good second brain.
Okay.
Travel a little.
All right, so this is
I
still on that.
know. I know.
Fixing
That's
those
just
Sit
errors.
around the house for about
Let this do
maybe
that. Let's come back here because it says
we
some
got
stuff
two
was,
or 3 days in May.
these were not
Before I start
created.
flipping out. Okay, I gotta go do something.
No data here or anything, but that makes
Well,
sense. What phase are they in? Product knowledge.
originally from California.
This is giving me some ideas for other stuff as well. This is how I should do some stuff for my course, onboarding and stuff like that. Let's come back. Self onboarding task.
Yes.
Did it make categories? I don't think it did. Platform study, objection handling,
One of
certification.
those
Okay.
things.
We'll have it put data inside of there.
Like, yeah,
Mhm.
I understand.
See, I'm missing something now. So what I would do in this case, because I'm confused, is this is enough right here. Come take a screenshot of this.
Well, you know, my password, the one that I use to log in. Okay. Okay, I'm on.
Open up my folder. Now, usually when you do that, it's like already on your clipboard, but for some reason, oh, well, you know what? Let's actually see if this updated now. I don't think so, but yeah, it never worked. So you actually got to come here. Just go to wherever your pictures are,
Oh.
screenshots,
Oh, you're typing yourself on the stuff.
Oh.
scroll all the way down, right click this, or you could do Control Alt Z, copy the path, paste it, then you can see image one right there, and then you can be able to go read the image. Why do I have all of these other things on my screen that look like duplicates then? Right, I wanted to actually go look at that. And now also kind of wouldn't have to do that, like I said earlier, because of that Claude Code MCP tool, Claude and Chrome that would work. It could actually pull up that URL and look at it and see, but because I can't do that, I can't do it. So it says those aren't duplicate records or duplicate databases. So it ran it three
There's really
times.
passwords we have to remember.
Runs. Let's
Are
clean
you
it
gonna
up.
have this recording somewhere on your
Yeah, yeah,
YouTube?
yeah, yeah. If you gotta go, yeah, you're all good. I'm a literally finish up that last part of cleaning this up and everything, and like maybe put in a little bit more information, and then all
Okay.
these go up on YouTube. Let me do this really quick before you go, because I don't think the YouTube is in the on the Luma, which I need to put after, and then you can watch all the other sessions as well. There you go. And then, yeah, like I said, if you're interested in the Obsidian one, you could register for that one too. That'll be on Monday. And then if you can't make it, like and they're all recorded, so it's no pressure on anyone or anything like that.
All right. Subscribing now.
Got you. I appreciate you for
All
joining
right.
and taking the time out of your schedule, man.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. So let's come back to finishing this. Let's close all of these extra tabs. I don't need the integration anymore. That's working. So it cleaned up all of that extra stuff, which is good. Right, I see that it's clean. That's correct. We have the structure. Now there's no duplicate. This is still doing research on the N8N part and stuff, which is fine. I just added two new databases. Can we add significant dummy data there as well now? Right, because back to the gentleman's point who just left, we're talking about onboarding. So I do have onboarding checklists here and stuff like that, but I think this sales onboarding might be a better description of how that is. And they have different views here, but I don't add a new view. I see. So a gallery will be something like this right here. Got it. And these would be his task. Like, oh, dang, 43 tasks. That's a lot, but that's okay. And then a phase they would be in. So if I do sales toolkit, those don't change down there, or they would have to change in multiple, right? In progress, right? Like all those things, depending on how you want to look at that. Then there's stuff right here. Quick reference. No, it's not bad. I like that. That's cool. Gallery. What does a board look like? We got the board right here. And then we have, what does a feed look like? Like a social media platform, kind of. Okay. I don't need a map or anything like that. All right, so this is adding dummy data there. All right, so I'm not sure what this is. Is this trying to add? Just seeing a file get changed. Okay. It's doing research still. That's fine. All right, so it's creating all that information. Let's go back. Sales onboarding. Let's go to the gallery. Oh, it might not be for this one yet. Maybe it's for the task. Yep. So let's change this view into a gallery. You know, there's no picture, so it's just gonna be okay. Mock exercises. Yeah. I wonder if there's more. Does it just slide over depending on what it is? All right, so both agents are running in parallel. Just a small waiting game as usual. All right, it's trying to write some files. I'm not sure why it's trying to do that, but a majority of what I've wanted to get done, I've gotten done, which I'm happy about. I can definitely see why Notion was being used, especially like in that case I was talking about earlier. I keep mentioning this platform Obsidian, which I'll talk about on Monday, but using Obsidian to now a lot of this stuff here, let me attribute that. The AI didn't make up anything here in terms of making all of this stuff that it put in here. Like for example, these workshops, of course the attendees and all that stuff, but like these descriptions and what like the sessions are supposed to be on and other things like that are actually taken from what I'm doing here in these actual sessions of, using Claude Code with different platforms. But they're also like course material and other things that I have, and I'm not sure where it's at inside of here, but as an example, we can see AI agent protocols, databases, SEO, just like some small things which are a part of a Claude Code challenge where I already have that information from. Now, you could, of course, start from Notion, and if you were only using Notion, you would just do everything from there. But in my case, like I have all that stuff saved in Obsidian once again. So I'm just going to say, okay. So I'm sure that's running in the background, but sometimes that actually finishes and it gets stuck and it just doesn't come back and tell you. So I have that. This is just saying this one. I really actually don't want to use, I'm not going to do all of this right now, but it's just good that you can see like that that could be a platform that we integrate to Discord or whatever the case may be. Right, okay, so yeah, that still is. And it says that it's creating, and I think that's through the sales one. Oh, and it's not, all of this will have multiple people, like that's what it's creating right now. So this is saying the Notion workshop manages voice AI consulting businesses across 9 databases. The plan is to add a webhook layer so every CLI action pushes events, right? So notifications to Discord for me, right? Of course, this could be many different things like when someone fills out a form, they get put inside of um, this notion and different things trigger off based on other things that you're doing based on this onboarding process. Maybe you built the interface, maybe it's connected to an LMS, a learning management system, or after they finish a course or after they do something, it's automatically moved. And there's many different variations of how that can happen. So I'm not going to finish this conversation here. I just actually want this to be done. So sales onboarding task, all of these actually completed. So going back, we have sales onboarding task. right? And these different tasks, certification, pricing, demo, persona research, objection handling, discovery skills, proposal system, technical dev, mock. And then we have the phases here. And then we have the priority of those phases. So yeah, now we're just waiting for the sales rep just to kind of look at that data there. And yeah, that's just from someone who's never really used Notion to even brainstorm on an idea for any capacity, any reason for myself or like in a client workflow. I think that's pretty good. And even with kind of explaining the things that I was saying earlier, like even with using Obsidian, I still, and this is not like a end of all means type of situation where like Obsidian is the best and I'm not going to use anything else. I don't really know that because I'm still exploring the workflows, the trade-offs, and the benefits. But because I do work already on my device so much and Obsidian is free, I don't have to pay for it unless I choose to for whatever extra features or benefits that it gives me. And is I can just use this. And then when I want to decide to have a cloud platform where I share things because I wouldn't use Obsidian to do that. I wouldn't, even with Obsidian's cloud version, I wouldn't use that as a source to give to my clients or present or anything like that. I would use a platform like Gamma or Notion, right? And then, uh, put that in that project and do like all those different things like that. So I'm just still waiting on this. Okay, so we see some more people right there. That's actually good. We see what phase there are, technical basis, sales, marketing, sales process, technical basis. Was that twice? Oh, I have to finish that. I just the same thing. All right, and then what stage are on block, preparing, completed, in progress. The role, sales rep, account executives. What is AE? I'm in a slow moment. I'm not sure what that is right now. Task, start date, total task, all that. Yeah, that is good. So I hope this was a good example of using Claude Code with Notion, brainstorming and doing things like that. And I hope to see you tomorrow. We're going to be automating social media with Go High Level and things like that. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and don't work too hard.